The internet has really made it easy for indie artists. Once upon a time, if you wanted to make it big as an indie, you'd have to sell your books directly to stores. But now with just a click of a button, you can reach millions of people. Indie authors and indie comic book artists have made thousands, tens of thousands, or in some cases even hundreds of thousands or millions on crowdfunded comic books and novels. Back in the 80s, when Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird started TMNT, they were lucky to have made 10,000K. You couldn't build a massive audience like you can today with the internet. But now that the internet has made it easier for random people to succeed in the indie sphere, it's really broken a lot of the barriers of entry that used to exist. Some people like Eric July seem to think that this is a bad thing for consumers. And is it? Let's take a brief look at Shane Davis. His recent comic book campaign, Inglorious Rex, garnered more than $300,000. On a live stream, Shane Davis showed his viewers a Godzilla pinball machine. It cost over $10,000. His viewers asked him how much he'd have to sell on his campaign to buy it, and he told them if he sold $300,000 or more on his comic book campaign, then he would in fact get it. Miraculously, in the last few minutes of his campaign, he managed to earn the necessary funds.
I owe a shot, by the way. I get it. I'm down a shot because we did go up. Hey, look, we hid the Indiegogo tiers. They're gone. Okay, so Indiegogo didn't go down, but you can't back it on Indiegogo. We already took them down. So Yanzi's taking down the site right now. But I am at $1,001. So I 301, so I do owe you guys a shot. So I am taking it. This is my last shot, and I'm crawling into bed.
But was this a prudent business decision? And is Eric July right about crowdfunders? Let's take a look at a recent clip of one of Shane Davis's live streams.
Well, we're going to walk down through the prices of this and how I'm going to spend my backers' money. I remind you guys that Eric July says creatives don't know how to handle money. Let me pull that up.
Now have access to more money than they've ever seen in their lives. And
that's me with the Godzilla pinball. That's me with the Godzilla pinball. Holy shit. You see what he did there? He called it out. He's like, that was called foreshadowing. That is Shane Davis getting more money than he knows what to do with and spending it on a Godzilla pinball machine. Let's see that again.
Have no idea what they're doing. This has caused extremely late campaigns and unfulfilled promises. Worse, some now have access to more money than they've ever seen in their lives, and they end up spending it on everything else but the project. That's unfortunate.
You're goddamn right, Eric. You're goddamn right. That the backer said, Shane, we're going to square away $11,000 for you not to put it in the campaign, or you to spend it on a pinball machine, Eric. And I know that drives you crazy because according to you, I could probably hire, I don't know, 12 Brazilians to make 12 comic books, or I could get a $12,000 Godzilla pinball machine, Eric. Now, you're going to tell me that bad business. But I got to keep the promise. I did not think Inglorious Rex 3 would hit $300,000. I was right there. I said, guys, let's just up under the wire, $299. I mean, because the reality was whether I made $290 or $299, or if I made, the reality was if I hit $300,000, and I bet against myself, I did, and I lost. I bet against myself and I lost. Look, right here, your word is your bond.
What do you think about Shane Davis buying this pinball machine? Was that a bad business decision? And was he deserving of this cash? Shane Davis is a seasoned comic pro, working on such titles as Superman Earth 1. But many indies are not that experienced, such as Daniel Greene, a popular YouTuber who talks about science fiction, fantasy, novels, and publishing news. With no formal experience as a writer or in the publishing industry, he's managed to rake in astronomical financial success. In a video on YouTube, he spoke about how he was surprised to have made so much money.
And someone even responded, maybe speculating that possibly my books just did so poorly that I didn't want to showcase. It's kind of actually the opposite of that. When I started the journey to try and put out these books, I thought, in my just naive estimate, I would sell roughly as many copies as I had patrons. It made sense to me that, okay, if 1,500-ish people, which was about how many patrons I had in the time, like the channel enough to support me by going the extra mile there, I'll probably sell maybe a few hundred more copies than that. That was really stupid to think. And then the organic growth for the book also exceeded my expectations, it getting several reviews here on YouTube from people who had mixed responses, which I have appreciated the critical feedback and the positive. It's been great, and I've taken a lot of that to learn to do better for my next book, Neon Ghosts. Publication date coming soon. And then it even started to take off in places like Bookstagram and TikTok. I even got a couple websites reviewing the book. Books. And as the dollar amounts kept rising and rising, I was really afraid if I made this video, it was going to come across like I was just bragging about how good my books did. I don't ever want to be one of those YouTubers who is like flexing his cash on people. I find that to be tacky and disgusting. But I also am a very big believer in financial transparency in pretty much every industry in existence. It allows people at all levels to better understand their own value, and in addition to that, the insights you get from looking at how much money I made where from my books also helps highlight just how bad the Amazon Titan grip on the self-publishing industry really is. And so for those reasons, I decided to finally get this done. But if my tone seems a bit different, it's because I am still very, very nervous doing this. But if I'm going to do something that could be taken as kind of douchey, let's go ahead and look the part. Black t-shirt, check. The chain, check. Unnecessarily large secondary ring, check. And now, I need unnecessary YouTube flair to grab your attention and make you think that I'm quirky and special. I haven't put contacts in since I got my LASIK, so let's see how this goes. Wash my hands first. Do I seem quirky yet relatable?
Let me show you what his sales metrics were at the time.
But that brings the total to $180,583.77. Most of that money went for a very generous down payment on my house. I've always wanted to live in a townhome, and that is where a bulk of it went.
Daniel Greene said that he used most of the money for a down payment on a townhome. But where did the rest of the money go? I think this might surprise you. Just a month after Daniel Greene had made that video that I showed you earlier about his success, he decided to disappear from the internet. This was quite strange considering he was about to launch a crowdfunding campaign for some more novels. Many fans believe that Daniel had taken his hiatus because of stress or depression, but the actual story is much more bizarre. And if you'd like to learn about what really happened, come with me real briefly to Las Vegas. Apparently, not everything that happens there stays there, and sometimes can come back to bite you years later. Daniel Greene, who is with his current fiancée at the time, cheated on her with this girl Naomi King in Las Vegas. He had flown her out there, presumably just so they could be friends, and some things transpired.
Hi guys! 2 years ago, YouTuber Daniel Greene threatened to wipe me off of social media. So if I disappear, you'll know who did it. He was sober and wide awake, and I was half asleep and on drugs. Which he knew. I had arrived in Vegas in the morning, and I spent 420 just getting baked by the pool, taking 40 milligram edibles all day. Because it was fucking 420. I went to sleep because his flight was gonna land late in the evening. He turned up at midnight, sober and awake, and pressured me, half asleep and on drugs, into sexual things that he and I had agreed beforehand would not happen. I repeatedly asked him if we could just sleep and talk in the morning. I was halfway through a sentence when he pushed me over and shoved his tongue in my mouth. He repeatedly tried to stick his penis in me, saying, come on, just the tip, just the tip. I repeatedly pushed his penis away, saying, I'm not having sex without lube, I'm not having sex without lube, I'm not having sex without lube. Because I have medical conditions. One of which is idiopathic hypogonadotropic hypogonadism. It can make sex very painful for me. I cannot self-lubricate or stretch, which he knows. He kept trying to shove it in me. I kept pushing his dick away, just repeating, I'm not having sex without lube, I'm not having sex without lube. jerking off onto me, moaning about how long he'd dreamt about it. I was half asleep and on drugs. I didn't fucking want it. This was written and read to Daniel weeks before all of this. 8 pages. 1.5 pages of this was me calling him out for the way he had been treating me for 3 years. And 6.5 pages was me calling him out for his behavior in relationships and all the shit that he had been saying and doing behind his partner's back for 2 years. I had proof that I fucking fought for her. I had proof that I fought for their relationship. I begged him to fucking talk to her for 2 fucking years. Only to have him lie to get me alone, pressure me into sexual things that he agreed wouldn't happen, and then go home and use me as a scapegoat.
Now you might be a little confused after hearing Naomi's first bit of the story, but in a separate video she explained how they ended up having sex to begin with. First, Naomi King explained why she likes to sleep naked.
I cannot stand the feeling of clothes bunching around my skin and twisting as you sleep and inseams, and it's just bad. But when he got there, I put this on. This was how I let him in, very groggy. I remember one of the first things he said upon seeing me was he commented on how high I looked. So I said, "You want to catch up?" He took half a bite of one, which would have been 10 milligrams, but that takes about an hour to kick in. So when he did what he did, he was still sober. I went back to sleep, and I did remove this because I was now under the blankets. Before I removed this, that first night, I straight up asked Daniel if he would prefer it if I left it on. Someone being next to you is not consent. I guess I should reenact for you what happened. Alright, y'all, here's what happened. There were blankets, there were pillows. Not this many. I was in bed like this when he came and joined me. He lay here, and I was very groggy and half asleep. And he started to pressure me into things. Because I was facing him, I was like, not good. So I turned onto my stomach and put my arm between us to create a barrier, and I was looking at my pillow while trying to talk him out of it. He pushed me over and started putting his tongue in my mouth. Now, I will acknowledge that I did not fight him off. I will acknowledge that I froze because that is my trauma response. It was all very quick.
Naomi King further explains how Daniel Greene used his money after making it big in indie publishing.
We went for breakfast, and over breakfast, we discussed the fact that it never should have happened, and that we were just friends, and that it was never going to happen again. We had that conversation over breakfast. After breakfast, on the way back, he stopped by an ATM, and I told him I didn't want his money, because he said he wanted to spoil me as a friend. And he said, no, I promise you, just friends. It never should have happened, never happening again, just friends. I told you I wanted to spoil you. January 22nd of 2023 was when he said he wanted to take me on a friend trip and spoil me. And we started talking about travel around then. For all the people who are confused as to what the fuck spoil even means, I'm a sugar baby. Now, he and I were not daddy baby. He wanted to spoil me as a friend.
A few moments later.
He also made me lie down on the bed while he laid the money that he took out of the ATM that he promised would be just for being friends on my body. And I will acknowledge I did not fight him off. But I did repeatedly try to talk him out of it, and whenever he pushed for sex, I did reject that.
I'm assuming that Eric July probably approved of Daniel Greene using his funds to get a down payment for a townhome. But when he mentioned indie creators not knowing how to use their money, I wonder if he was referencing such acts as using funds to solicit sexual favors from other internet creators in Las Vegas. Do you support Shane Davis using his earnings to buy a pinball machine? What do you think about Daniel Greene and Naomi King? Was it appropriate for him to use his customers' money to solicit sexual favors in Las Vegas? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or...
You are a hoe ass